Hello there, welcome to Heart Explained Therapy, and now I'm going to talk about meaning and purpose in the world. Is there meaning and purpose in the world, or are we just doing things for the sake of doing things? Now, some great philosophers of the past, some very well respected philosophers, have suggested that it might just be a typical animalistic process. It's just really about surviving, and even though that's meaning in its own right, it's a very sad view that we're just surviving because we want to breathe and live and procreate. The loving gurus out there will say there's huge meaning, the meaning of God, and God is our saviour, and it's all about love, and this makes lots of people very, very happy and comfortable. So what is the truth? How can we find out the truth? Now, the one truth is it's going to be very different for everybody based on their perspectives. So we've got to try and get down past the egoic mind first of all. Now, what is this egoic mind? You might have heard about it, but do you really understand it? Well, let's just say A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now, did you just hear what I said? I started the alphabet. Now, did you think at the time of the alphabet that was going to lead somewhere into a really important conversation? Was you listening, or was your mind distracted? You see, there's a theory that I have that some people have a trait where they don't actually listen the true nature and the true way that you're supposed to listen, which is open-mindedness, almost silencing the thoughts to truly understand somebody else's words. Now, if you're fighting for meaning and purpose in your life, you have this egoic mind that must cling on to a story. You must, and the egoic mind doesn't listen to anybody else's point of view. You just listen to your own ego. And these sort of videos right now, you're probably not listening to. You are probably building up an argument in your head on when you can jump in and say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And really, you're not watching the video to learn any knowledge or anything brand new, which might come up, and something brand new might come up. You are watching it with your version of reality already taking place, and nothing will change that. So this is the egoic mind that in general, this is the egoic mind at play, where you just don't listen. It's one of its traits. But more importantly, it's the foundation that what stops you from understanding meaning and purpose. You see, at the moment you need meaning and purpose to fulfill this egoic mind's need. Now, if you transfer to love and spirit and find the meaning is fulfilled, you then also lose the same sight as the egoic mind. You still get lost in the illusion. The spirit has meaning, the egoic mind has a meaning, but it's very selfish. It's a very dark sort of shadow-like dogma. The spirit can be for others and nice and feels good, so you're going to pursue that meaning. Now, we're going to go a few levels deeper than that, because I think it's important to understand meaning. You see, the truth about meaning and purpose is that it's an insight in the human mind. You see, we can have it as an idea, or we can let it go. Now, if letting that go makes you sort of fall into complete and utter madness, ask yourself why that is. Now, personally, if you have no meaning and purpose in your life, you wouldn't technically be here. You would have killed yourself. You'd be dead. The actual fall of meaningless life would drive you so crazy. If you believed in it to be 100% true, it would drive you so crazy you would kill yourself. Now, I think this is a very important fear to overcome for humanity in general, but just for some people who struggle with meaning and purpose. If you delve into this fear, you can understand that you have the capability of meaning in the fact that you're still alive, you get up and you do the things. There's meaning in that. Just because it's not love and God and Christ and connection and collective oneness doesn't mean it's not meaning, because it is. Secondly, if you stay there where you do not go there based on a fear, which is completely natural and normal, don't forget, I understand the barrier that's built up. Ask yourself why you have this sort of egoic mind or spirits merged with making some sort of sense out of reality. Ask yourself why that is. If you're not willing to step into the madness that you think that you can't handle, ask yourself why can't you do that, and you discover your meaning and purpose. Now this could be kids, family, it could be you don't want to kill yourself, you fear suicide, you fear insanity. Now this gives you meaning and purpose in your life to avoid insanity, to avoid the madness that can sort of cover you if you have this fall. Now being fearless of death, being fearless of suicide, being fearless of madness can help you see a different reality. One where purpose and meaning is purely an insight, purely a perception we can have. It entails a great sort of engagement with reality, to be able to now know that you could be a meaningless process or a meaningful process. You see that in fact, just like many other dynamics that I say doesn't really exist when you dissect and break it down, you see that meaning and meaningless is just language, it's just words, it's just you are trying to connect this to the heart as if there is a greater plane, a higher reality, and you want to feel that, you want to feel the power of God because you possibly believe that you deserve it, or you see other people that you presume have it and you think that's a nice place to call home. And again, it's just doing all of the things that your egoic mind and your spirit tries to do. It just tries to connect the dots for you to feel significant, love, meaning and purpose. And you can see that this idea and it just being an insight isn't uncomfortable. It's not dangerous. You can't go insane unless you think that your sort of mind and its ideas are insane to the alien population out there, where you alienate yourself from the population. Now really get your head and try and open your mind to this. Get your head around, when have you ever truly been connected or on a wavelength to anybody in your life? When have you really ever trusted that someone's listened to you properly, openly, they've loved you, the egoic you, the spiritual you, the drunk you, the sober you? When have you ever seen this? When have you ever experienced this? Now you can see that you have to go back to a strange feeling inside yourself of unconditional love that you had. Maybe this was with mom and dad and it lasted for seconds, minutes or days. And as you get older and older, this happened less and less, and it probably changed into partner or children, you know, your children, how you connected. That feeling is the feeling that you're searching for through asking for meaning and purpose, and for being scared that it's all meaningless, right? Now what I'm saying, if you can just understand this is the same about everything else. This is just you connecting you with a sense of identity, the personality, and you don't have to settle for anything, not just a false sort of fabrication of information, which you don't settle for anyway, because this is why you would stumble across a video like this. And you can break it down even more than currently conscious people do. And the reason for this, what is my meaning and what is my purpose for passing this message on, it's not to tell you about how meaningful life is, because I think there's an idea that it could all be meaningless as well, and it's just an environmental process. But for me, the fact that you can have the idea of that or take it away shows that there is a favourable process that's taking place for a future event to happen, a expansion of consciousness perhaps, evolution of us, maybe a new symbiotic relationship. It looks like it's heading towards artificial intelligence, but you never know with the way the world goes. It can be chaotic and go into any direction. Now for us, if this process is meaningless or meaningful, it doesn't really matter. But if we can tackle it by managing to break down that much information to that point where I get to, where you can step in and out of insanity, you can be this fearless about life and death, you can control your emotions and use your emotions and express your emotions in the way that I was going to say nature intended you to do, to be, to the part where you really feel the most alive. That's deep understanding about yourself, unconditional love for yourself, and hoping that there is a place in the world where this exists constantly for you. And in that place, surely the future expansion of the world, in whether it's meaningless or meaningful, will go in a more educated direction. And that's all that it really boils down to, is can consciousness, I mean, for me, intelligence and consciousness, the higher intelligence of consciousness makes mental health go away. It stops people getting abused. It stops people seeing the world in a false way and not the way that culture has trained us to view the world. So I'm just thinking, by the law of odds and probability and intellectual history, if we can take this higher consciousness into the 21st century and we do symbiotically merge with artificial intelligence, then maybe the natural world, the earth, has more of a chance of being looked after. And to me, that is far greater meaning than the meaningful of love and purpose for me. And I think not many people can grasp that separation. Not many people can rip away the ego and the spirit and see that we're part of a bigger picture. And because we're reactive and we are creative and expressive, and we have the hands now to create almost anything we want. If we think it, we create it, and we just do it. Nuclear weapons, guns, knives, sharp instruments that stab each other. If we can do this and we carry on with this egoic mind and this spiritual baloney of love that just doesn't work, it just doesn't get translated to anybody's psyche because they just don't know what it means or what it is. If we can break down those barriers more to a logical, rational religion, a science, one that just is founded on more truth than any of the other information, just because it's something that doesn't really sell to the human race because it's above the human race. If you can get to that part, that area, there's loads of meaning in there, and it's meaningful where you live, your environment. Your environment now becomes priority over you. Now for me, this is a big sort of, mind expanding moment. It's like, why would I say that? Do I fear life more than death? And you can go down all these egoic minds of putting this into a language, but it just makes sense for me. It makes sense that this makes more sense than the ideology that I've seen and heard about in the history and in the scriptures and in the Bibles and in the You know, the stuff that you see out there. You see people, intellectual people, break down the theory of life and reality, and they cry, or they feel high, or they get an emotion. This is bigger than emotion. This is a state where you control emotions and you view the world from that higher state of reality that exists. That's for the first time, not consciously, just based on yourself, not the ego, not the spirit. Above that, almost like consciousness itself. Consciousness wants the environment to survive more than you. And that's okay, that's not a thing to be scared about, because whether it's because you are it or you're part of it which makes you it, or it's the God and that is God, it doesn't really matter. Meaningless or meaningful, doesn't matter. You're breaking down of that mind who first of all just doesn't listen, and second of all hangs on to what's in it for me. If the spirit wants something and the ego wants something, then surely it has nothing to do with you. And this just makes perfect sense to me. And I know nothing. I know it can't be true or will be true. I know that nothing that I say, everything I say is just an insight, but it just sounds like a philosophy that makes more sense to anybody else, and just by chance I said it.